Welcome to Tech Notice, guys. This is going to be quite an exciting episode. In this episode, we're going to check out this. This right here is the best macro lens in the entire world. Okay? If you want to know more about this lens, want to know what it feels like, what's the specs, what's it built like, then stay tuned. Okay, let's roll the intro and then run straight into some footage that has been shot with this lens. Let's do it. As you saw, with this lens, you can take some pretty interesting shots. Because it's a macro lens, you can get some really close-up shots of subjects that you usually can't see or don't see with normal lens because it just doesn't focus that close. But this one, it does. So let me just address this best macro lens in the world statement or sentence. So it truly is the best macro lens in the world according to DxOMark. This is where I'm basing my statement on, because if you haven't heard about DxOMark, just check the link below. You can check their webpage. Basically, this is a web page where they have tested lots of lenses and they have their own marking systems, how they mark which lenses are better than the other ones. Obviously, there's some specs that you can compare, like sharpness and vignetting and chromatic aberration and la-di-da. So they have made a database and also a high score of which lenses have scored the best and which have scored the least. If you search for all the lenses in the world, then this lens is the 10th lens in the list. So this is top 10, hitting top 10 in the world. But if you search for the macro lenses, this is on the top by far of anything else. So this is absolutely unbelievable lens. It's not just the best macro lens in the world, it's one of the best lenses in the world. So I'd like to start with the design and the features of the lens, just so you're familiar. If you haven't heard about anything about this lens, then this is probably important for you to know. Now, if you look at the build quality is really good. It has aluminium body. I'm not sure about the weather sealing. Don't quote me on that. I wouldn't say it's probably the best, but maybe some of you know better. Feel free to correct me in the comment section. It's very solid built. It's quite heavy, so I know there's quite a bit of glass inside. It has a 62mm thread on the top. It also has some very special features. So on the side, there is 3 buttons. One of them is a autofocus distance button. So what you can do with this button is decide whether the lens is going to focus on the macro distance to close distance, have the autofocus only on that bit of the area, or have it from the close distance to infinity distance, or have it autofocus with the whole length. Obviously, the benefits for this button is that if you know what you're shooting, it's going to find your focus faster. Let's say you're shooting something in a couple of meters away, but if you have it set for the full length, it's going to also look for the autofocus in the macro section. But if you know that there's definitely nothing going to be in the macro section, there's no need to focus in there, and it's going to just save the focusing time on the lens so it can focus faster. The same with macro distance. Also, the second button is the optical stabilization. You can just flick it off here if you want to, and then it's got a customizable button on the side. When you go to the menu and custom button layout menu, then when you mount this lens, there's also going to be an extra line there where you can decide what you want this button to do. And then there is the focus ring, which has a really nice grip to it, so it's easy to focus. And we know that Sony's been known with the focus ring being focused by a wire, but this one acts almost like one, which is absolutely amazing. So the manual focusing is absolutely awesome. If you want to do that, if you're into video and you're manually focusing, it's brilliant to do with this lens. But this lens doesn't stop there. They have made this awesome feature like a shotgun effect, which means you can pull the focus ring towards you or push it away. It gives you a quick change of autofocus to manual focus. So if the ring is pushed out, it is in autofocus mode. But if you pull it towards you, it's straight away gonna go to the manual focus mode without you going into your settings or changing the autofocus to manual focus. So it's quick and easy way to just manually focus. But there's a little but, which I found out and I think people should know before buying this lens, is that when you're in the autofocusing mode, let's say you're focusing on something and you realize that the lens is quite not focusing on what you want and you just want to adjust the focus a little bit. Let's say there's two subjects really close, but the lens is choosing the wrong subject to be in focus and you want it to be the other one. And then you think, okay, I'm just gonna quickly pull it back towards me, the focusing ring, and then I can just adjust it a little bit. Then you're probably gonna mess up your focus, because when you're pulling it back, it's not gonna actually start manually focusing from the previous point, but to the point where what's actually been set on the lens here. Because when you're manually focusing, this ring or the manual focus ring moves with it, and you can see that this little line here shows you where's the focus. But when you push it to the autofocus, then this line stops. So now when you're pulling it back, it's actually just gonna jump to whatever has been marked with this little mark, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense? Now let's talk about the specs specifically and just a bit of my review and opinion as well. So this is an FE lens, which means it's designed for full frame Sony cameras. Now the aperture is quite wide open. It is 2.8. When you're looking at macro lenses, they all tend to be around there. It is a G lens, which means that Sony has used the highest optical quality of things that can be put into the lens and absolutely tune the lens to the max. Also, don't get confused with the GM lenses, which are even higher and the highest that Sony produces, and this is like the second highest, so this is like the G lens. G means gold, some say grand, whatever. It means high-end basically. Also, it is an OSS lens, which means optical stabilization, which means that the lens also inside has an optical stabilization. So if you have an in-body stabilization in your camera body and in the lens, these two will act together and you get extra smooth shots, which is really good when shooting video, especially for me, because often you're shooting handheld video and you want it to be as smooth as possible and maybe do minimal like stabilization in post. Then because it is built-in stabilization and the optical stabilization on the lens, you get really smooth shots, which is bueno. So now we've gone through all the specs. Now let's talk about the sharpness, which is the sharpness is so good. It's such a sharp lens that it is truly sharp, and that's why it is one of the best lenses in the world and ranking really high in the overall lens highest ranking systems, because it is so sharp and it's made by Sony itself. This time, usually Sony in the beginning used to team up with Carl Zeiss, and that's why I got really good lenses, but this time they have made it their own and absolutely killed it. So it is really sharp. I'm also going to leave some photos in the description if you want to just check out some raw photos from my Sony A7S II. So you can just check out and play around if you want to and check how sharp this lens actually is. You're probably wondering, is this lens good for video and why would you buy this for a video? So I'll tell you why I bought this one. I had two options. I wanted to buy either the 51 1.8, which is the top 4th lens in the world, or this one. And then I was thinking, which one would add more to my work, what I am doing? So I thought, okay, 55 would just add bokeh. But then I thought this one would actually add something that none of the other lenses would do in my lens arsenal. it would take some really close-up shots, something really specific, something that human eyes wouldn't see unless shot with this lens. So I thought this lens will add so much more what I can offer. You know, people see my work and they're like, whoa, how did he get the shot? Well, that's why. So it is a really good lens for video as well as portraits. I know quite a few people online, when I did a lot of research before buying the lens, a lot of people use this lens for portraits as well, because it is almost like an 85mm, a bit longer, so it's really good to get portraits, and you get quite a bit of compression in the background as well. So it's really good for portraits as well as video. If you want to check out this lens, find a link in the description and check out this lens. It is such a good lens, you're wondering, is there any bad sides with it? The biggest, maybe bad side, is the autofocusing speed. Because this is quite an old lens, like 4 years old now or something like that, Sony uses these older motors inside, which aren't as fast. It is perfectly normal for this lens to make some noise when autofocusing, or when you're manual focusing, it will make some noise and you can hear it. Your internal mic will pick this up. I'll put some footage over here now so you can hear like what it would sound when I'm shooting something or manually focusing. That's the kind of noise it makes. So if you're getting this and wondering, oh, is my lens broken? No, your lens is not broken. And then the last thing, what I would say, like what's bad about this is just the weight. If you're shooting with like some of the smaller bodies or even crop size sensors of Sony lenses, then this is quite a bit of weight to put on your camera. If this is important to you to know that, you know, your lenses are light, then this is probably not the lightest lens. It weighs this much. Okay, now, quick conclusion about the lens. It's absolutely an awesome lens made by Sony. I absolutely love this lens, and I hope this lens review has been helpful to you to decide whether you should get this lens or not. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this episode of Tech Notice, where hopefully I helped to decide whether this is the lens for you, or just to know more about this lens and kind of my opinion as well. So if you did like this video, please leave a like in the section below. That will massively help me. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to this channel. I'm looking at my stats on my YouTube channel, and 99.2% of the views are not my subscribers. So if you guys are liking these videos, please hit subscribe so you could get more videos like this one. Anyway, if you're not part of this channel yet, then please subscribe to get part of this community and Tech Notice. Remember, the link is in the description if you want to check out the lens, and I'll see your smiling faces next week. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.